DAZN Worldwide, April 26th, Eubank Jr. versus Benn. 30 years of rivalry and hatred.
I do hate him.
All comes down to this. The next generation, a new destroyer. For family, history, legacy. Eubank Jr. versus Benn, April 26th. Buy now at DAZN.com/boxing.
You know what? I have to start this video by giving Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn a round of applause, because that right there, I really didn't think it would be as good as this. This was fight of the year. Fight of the year. This was a phenomenal fight. It really, truly, honestly was. It was incredible. And I hope we see it again. Chris Eubank Jr. defeats Conor Benn on a 12-round unanimous decision. All three judges had it 116 to 112. I can't really argue with that, to be honest with you. I wasn't like actively scoring it, but I thought it was more a one. And actually, do you know what? I'm regretting never changing my mind, because I told Ade and G-Man with Ade that it would be a 117, 111, 116, 112 score. And I was right. Until I made that video this morning. But I was right until today, sort of, so I'll take that. But it was a brilliant fight. Chris Eubank Jr. started out on the back foot. He was using the jab to good effect. Conor Benn came out. See, Conor Benn is too emotional. He's too emotional. You've seen that after. He was nearly in tears. He fights very emotional. So when he came out in that first round, I was doing the live watch along, and I said, Conor Benn, relax, because you are swinging to the fences. One, you're leaving yourself open to be countered. You're going to waste so much energy. You're not doing yourself any favors fighting the way you're fighting. You're just going to burn energy. You're just going to waste energy. You're going to waste punches, and you're going to give Eubank Jr. so many opportunities to counter you, and that's exactly what he did early on. I actually gave Chris Eubank Jr. the first 2 rounds. Now, a lot of people said the second round was a bit hit and miss. Now, I gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. The third round, however, was a round in which Conor Benn landed a left hook on Chris Eubank Jr. and he appeared to stun him noticeably. Eubank Jr.'s legs definitely buckled. So it obviously says to me that Conor Benn, the punching power, he's not his dad in terms of punching power, but he's not feather fisted. Certainly not. And he was able to buzz Eubank Jr. and that was a Conor Benn round. But for then on, until like kind of later on in this fight, Eubank Jr. really gained a foothold. Conor Benn had his moments where he would get through with a right hand now and again, but for the most part it was Chris Eubank Jr. In round number 5, Eubank Jr. brought in his signature punch, which is the uppercut, into play. And when he brought that shot into play, he landed it so cleanly on Conor Benn's chin, his head just snapped up. Now, Conor Benn has been down in his professional career. He was down against Cedric Payneau in 2017. That was a 6-rounder. Down at welterweight, Cedric Payneau, a journeyman. He was able to stun and hurt Conor Benn bad in that fight. Many people felt that he won the fight, Cedric Payneau. I thought Chris Eubank Jr. would have the power to be able to stun Conor Benn, and I think he does, but the rehydration clause absolutely screwed him. It didn't screw him out of this fight, but it screwed him in terms of fatigue, because Chris Eubank Jr. has always had a great gas tank. Always. Could do 12 rounds like they were until the cows come home. And he always had decent enough. He's never going to be a concussive, devastating puncher as Chris Eubank Jr., no. But he's always had good enough power. And I thought him fighting Conor Benn coming up from welterweight, those uppercuts would really tell. They did, but they didn't tell like I thought they would. They certainly didn't. And again, I suspect the rehydration clause has something to do with that. Now, Conor Benn, one of the biggest mistakes he made in this fight was the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. clearly was still feeling the results, the effects of that weight cut, clearly, right? So, you know, that is what that is. Conor Benn never really targeted or made a real effort to target the body of Chris Eubank Jr. He never did that. And by not doing that, it meant that Chris Eubank Jr., he did eventually start to fade, but only way later down the stretch. If he'd actually gone and put an effort into going to Conor Benn's body, I actually believe Conor Benn might have been able to actually got himself back into this fight. Maybe not stop Chris Eubank Jr., but at the very least be able to fatigue him earlier and make it easier for him. And as the rounds progressed, Conor Benn, like in round number 8, got a bit busier. He started throwing a lot more shots. He started landing a bit more on Chris Eubank Jr. You've seen Eddie Hearn up in the seat, you know, go on, Conor, blah, 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 blah. And you thought, okay, maybe is it going a bit like the Anthony Yarde-Lyndon Arthur fight that happened earlier, where Lyndon Arthur was boxing very well, Anthony Yarde just decided, you know what, the hell with this, I can't outbox this guy, I'm going to take it to you. and then he was able to get himself back in the fight. That's what Conor Benn attempted to do, and Chris Eubank Jr. met him. He met him there, and he was able to get himself back into this fight by landing the cleaner shots up off the ropes, and occasionally, and I think this was crucial, occasionally he would actually bring in a little bit of outside boxing and just pepper Conor Benn with ever so slightly with a jab here and there. He'd come in. Now, Conor Benn was looking to throw the right hand from range. There were times where he was too far out of range, or Chris Eubank Jr. wisely was too close to let him really get maximum leverage. You know, with punches, people think it's either or, it's just the right hand. No. There's always a point on the shot where you really want to get maximum power. So a lot of fight, like Wilder, for example, like, I mean, like if he was way too close, that right hand when he was throwing it, it wouldn't have the same effect as it would if he was, say, a kind of mid to far to long range. That's when you have that maximum bang in the shot. So Conor Benn, when Eubank was up close, the punches were either going over the head, or if they were landed, they didn't have the same velocity to them. So Eubank was able to do well with that. He was noticeably tiring, Chris Eubank Jr. There was moments in that fight where you've seen him looking up at the clock just to say, well, how long do I have left? But credit to both guys. They showed bags of heart. Both guys were badly fatigued. And Chris Eubank Jr. in round number 12, after the 11th round, which I did think he won, but he was looking up at the clock, he came out and he put a beating on Conor Benn in that round. And Conor Benn, to his credit, he hung like a man. He really did. Say whatever you want to say about him throwing his toys out of the pram. I will be saying stuff about that in a subsequent video. Have no fear there. But he did fight like a man in there. He really did. And credit to both guys. It was a tremendous fight. Would I like to see it again? Hell yes, I would love to see this fight again. It was phenomenal. It was brilliant. I cannot emphasize enough how much I enjoyed this fight. It was tremendous. And if we see it again, no rehydration clause. And if it's at 160, it's at 160. That's it. No rehydration clause. No BS shenanigans. None of that. It's in the ring Eubank wants. He didn't F up the first fight. He's now won this fight. Eddie Hearn, humble yourself. Get your head out of your goddamn ass and actually listen to the guy who won this fight. And that's what I got to say to Eddie Hearn. Humble yourself. You had another fighter lose. You're losing to Ben Shalom now, Eddie. That's not a good look. Right? You're losing to Ben Shalom. Frank Warren has absolutely decimated you. Get your head out of your ass. Get your head out of your ass, Eddie Hearn. Your guy lost. Simple as. You can say, well, you thought wrong. Now, get your head out of your ass. It's Chris Eubank Jr. who demands the terms next time. That's what I got to say on that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And until next time, which will be later, I'll talk to you. Peace.